All right, welcome, folks. We are here having an open conversation with the great Jason Belmonte. He's going to be one of the competitors, probably in my opinion, the biggest star competitor coming up at the USBC Masters and the US Open. But Jason, thanks for joining us today.
Mate, no worries at all.
You got a busy schedule. So first question, you are the one of only two players to win the Super Slam. I remember there was a commercial a few years back where young Jason Belmonte said, I want to win all four majors. And so now you've accomplished that. And now there's a fifth major. You've accomplished that as well. But you could be the first person to win all of them twice at the US Open. Is that something you're thinking about now that you've got one of those under your belt?
Yeah, it's certainly a motivator. I mean, to join Mike Albee last year as, like you said, one of two people to win the Super Slam, it was an outrageous accomplishment in my eyes. Like, it's hard to put into words just how exciting winning the US Open was, because it just ticked so many boxes off all at one time. You know, it was the Triple Crown, it was the Grand Slam, it was the Super Slam, it was the one major that I hadn't won. It was to extend the record a little further in terms of most majors won. And I remember flying home. That was one of the best flights home, just kind of reliving that moment. So it's hard to top that moment, but it wasn't until, you know, having a discussion with a few mates and they said, you know, like, what happens if you win the US Open again? Like, you would own two Super Slams. And
yeah.
it was like a slap in the face. Like, oh my God, I didn't even really think about that. But yeah, you're right. So that has become a huge motivator. And then, you know, to realize that it's in a couple of weeks for a chance to do that, it's certainly making me a little bit nervous, but I'm enjoying that feeling. I really want to give it a good crack and see if I can't become the only player to do it.
So you've had a lot of success in the Masters. You know, I think I calculated some odds, even for you to win the Masters 3 years in a row. It's anywhere between 100,000 to 3 million to 1. Which is
okay. It's a wide range, but
it's pretty crazy. Yeah. I don't know if in your mind you think the odds are that long of you winning the Masters, but it is. If you do it match by match, that's how the odds come out. But what in your mind is the difference between those two events? What makes them different?
I mean, obviously the format is what makes it so different. I mean, with the Masters, you're essentially playing two tournaments. You know, you're playing your qualifying round, just trying to find a way into that 64 person bracket. And then when the matches happen, it's a brand new style of event. And, you know, I've won matches with 550 and I've lost matches in the past with 750. So it's a very unique and interesting tournament, the Masters. And I love it. I really appreciate the roller coaster that you go on at that event, because you're fighting for that 64th or in the top 64 places to just make the match play. And then you're excited to see, right, who's my opponent, and what side of the bracket am I on? And, you know, you look at possible matchups. It's a really thrilling event. And I think it's probably the only event that has so many moments in them, you know, that there are best of sevens, best of five matches. But for me, watching a 3-game match unfold where every pin matters, that's special. And watching people's transitions, adjustments, and you know, it's probably one of the purest form of knockout events, because, you know, it's not like if in a best of match, your opponent can have the front 8 and you can be mathematically out of the event, and then you can just try 4 different bowling balls in the last 4 frames. You know, you're just throwing pins away, searching for something. But in the Masters, you know, you're still going to make a really educated guess, because you can't be throwing away pins, because even if they do have the front 8 and you're a little lost, you've still got a couple of games to work it out. And at the end of the day, you know, a handful of pins coming into the 10th frame of the 3rd game can be the difference between mathematically winning or mathematically going home. So, you know, I love the Masters. And like you said, I've had a lot of success in the Masters. So it's a tournament that I'm excited to play every year.
Are you glad they put the US Open second?
Yeah, I didn't even really think about that. I mean, the US Open is by far the most grueling mentally. It's a constant boxing match every single frame of every single game. And at the end of a US Open, you are as exhausted as you can be bowling. So knowing that at the Masters, there would be more competitors than there are at the US Open that have to deal with that exhaustion. It's nice to know that when we do play the Masters, everybody who's going to be bowling the US Open is playing the Masters. So everyone's going to be as tired from the Masters leading into the Open, rather than if they were the other way around, you would have a handful of competitors truly exhausted after the US Open to then compete in the Masters. So I guess I am glad that they've ordered them this way, but we'll see. We'll see if I enjoy the order after I actually play them.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So this question, I think about it all the time. I don't know how much you think about it. You probably say you don't think about it very much. But with Walter Ray and Pete retiring last week, the thoughts of, greatest of all time come up. I personally think I have a different way of looking at the greatest of all time argument. I think in some sports, it's pretty easy to say who, like in hockey, Wayne Gretzky, right? He's obviously the greatest of all time. But most other sports, it's like a 5-person conversation typically. And so I think the way I think about it is in bowling terms, why not have a stepladder finals for your greatest of all time, right? So in my mind, you're in the stepladder finals. You have a few more years to determine what seed you're going to be. But who for you would be the other 4 in that greatest of all time stepladder finals with you?
Jason, that's a great question. It's the way you phrase that is probably the best that I've ever heard it phrased.
Thank you.
The hardest part of putting that list together is I'm relying on word of mouth and some statistics from the past. Earl Anthony, Mark Roth, Dick Weber. So it's really, really tricky to know to know exactly who is in that top 5. I've bowled against Walter, I've bowled against Pete, and I've bowled against Norm, and I've been very, very close to seeing how they have accomplished what they have accomplished. Obviously not all of it, but most of it, or some of it. So, when I see Walter Ray, literally piping the gutter game 1, 2, and 3, and then I see him lofting the left gutter game 7, 8, 9 of a block, to see that unfold before your eyes, to me, allows me to put Walter at number 1. Because there will never be a more winning bowler in our game, and he never got the credit from the fan base anyway of how versatile he was, because he was so great throwing it straight, and he chose to throw it straight so often on TV. A lot of people missed his ability to cover the whole lane. And the fact that he just never missed a spare. My first few years coming out on tour, I was not a great spare shooter. I mean, I was maybe a little above average, which on tour still isn't great. But I mean, you would just look at his scoreboard and it was just double spare, 3-bagger, spare strike, 220, and it was like, does this guy ever open? Like, does he ever miss? And it was just one of those really amazing things to see. So you add all of that, he's my number 1. Number 2 is a little tricky because I'm relying on stats a little bit where, you have to look at Earl Anthony. And I only put Earl at number 2 because I never got to see, that versatility up front with my own eyes. But when you talk to the guys who have been on tour for many years and they explain how great Earl was, I have to trust that when you hear it enough from enough reliable sources that, clearly Earl was incredible. So based on the fact that he's the 2nd most winningest player of all time, you put Earl at number 2. And then I would probably look at jockeying third, fourth, and fifth, because some of these careers haven't ended either. Like I would have to look at Norm Duke, Pete, and maybe myself, putting myself maybe at fifth right now. But, again, you look at guys like Pete who have transcended the game through generations, through different forms of equipment, to different oiling patterns, to the way that the oil was put onto the lane. These guys have transcended each generation and have been successful through each generation. So I think I would probably put Norm in front of Pete, again, mainly because I think Norm was more versatile in what he could do to a bowling ball. He's won more than Pete now at the end of his career, or at the ending part of his career. So I'd probably put Norm, then Pete, and then, hopefully in the next, half a decade or so, I can climb the ladder and maybe, go up a few extra spots.
Well, I think you will. Good luck with that. Good luck in the tournaments, both the tournaments next week, the Masters and the US Open. Looking forward to seeing you compete. What are kind of your goals that you're trying to tick off to get you up higher on that step ladder before you call it a career?
Yeah, I mean, I think based on my geographical location of where I live, playing events in the summer, it's not going to be happening. And through my entire career, I've missed so many events because I've wanted to go home, and I have to, not have to, but want to, be a father, be a husband. So missing out on so many events in the past and events moving forward. The number 47 is not really on my radar, but the major number, I would love to one day boast 20 major championships, and, to have as many major championships as the top 10 or 12 people in history who own national titles. Would be a pretty amazing statistic. Obviously, that's Super Slam. I think if I win the Players Championship one more time and then 2 more US Opens, that would be the Super Slam 3 times over. Wow. So that's a goal after first, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. You asked the question what the goal is, but, I want to win it twice over first. But, then I'm only a couple of majors away from doing it 3 times over. So it's certainly on my radar. And then probably the player of the year number. Walter's got 7 as the leader. I'm tied with Earl at the moment. It's going to have to take a pretty miraculous end of this season, considering that I'm really only going to play a couple more events before heading home. So I'll look at maybe number 7 another year. But equaling Walter and then maybe surpassing him would certainly be a goal. And then, yeah, I guess I'll let people create their own step ladders. I'll have my own step ladder, and then hopefully it's decent enough that I'm in many people's step ladders.
Yeah. At this point, I don't see how people can exclude you. Okay, so last question. I told you we could probably talk for 6 hours, but
I got time. I got time, Jay. I got time.
This will be the last question. I've really enjoyed your TV work. And I'm going to give you some specifics on why I've enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the way you called the Kyle Troop match, the title match of the Players Championship. You went out on a limb. You took a chance on how you thought he was playing them incorrectly in your mind. And then he actually ended up making the move that you had recommended to him and went on to win that match. So I'm really enjoying that part of your analysis. Is the TV work something you kind of could see yourself doing once you hang them up, or is it just something you're doing for fun on the side when you happen to miss one of the very few shows that you do miss?
Yeah, thank you for the compliment. I really enjoy working in the booth. I've made a few jokes on air saying how much I hate it, but it's in relation to bowling on TV. I mean, especially these last few events of commentating, it's proven to me that the commentary game is not for me long term. It's something that I'm really enjoying when I'm in the country and I have an opportunity to call the action. I do enjoy it. But watching those guys compete for a title in that arena And this is where a little bit of the truth of I hate it comes out is I really am envious of the guys that are competing on TV. I want to be out there. I don't want to be calling the action. And that has been more evident to me this season than maybe any other season. So, you know, I've told Randy Peterson that, you know, I'm not looking to take his job ever. But if I'm in the country and I've had a less than subpar performance and I have the ability to call the action and offer a little something to the PBA's telecast and share my insights, you know, I'm more than happy to do it. I really enjoy doing it. And, you know, I think the hardest part, I'll tell you the hardest part, Jace. I'll tell you the hardest part is, you know, I know these guys so personally and so well. And as someone who has won championships before that have been recorded on TV, the commentary part of it is really important as a memory. When you go back and you watch it, you want that commentary to be, for the most part, positive, right? You don't want to hear the commentator just completely trash you the whole show and then, you know, then you win. So it's been a real challenge, to be honest, when someone's making a bad shot or, in my opinion, perhaps the wrong play in terms of ball use or lane play, to be able to still translate that into I understand why this is the decision they're making, but this is where I would change it to. So that has been really tricky. So usually after every show, I go and talk to all of the players and say, hey, I just want to let you know, this is kind of what I said. This is why I said it. You know, I hope it didn't offend you. I hope you don't think I was trashing you, because that's not the case at all. And for the most part, I think once I explain my thought process to the players, each and every one of them are like, no, I think you were right. You know, I was in the wrong ball, or I didn't do the right thing. So,
well, I think it's interesting because they could go back and listen to your commentary and actually get insight into how you think, which, and that, I think that's also why I like it so much, is because you want to be out there bowling so much and you're actually going through the same thought process you would be going through if you were out there bowling.
Yeah, and I'm still trying to hit Carl Troop up for a percentage of that win, because I think he heard me. I think he heard me through the glass, and he's like, actually, you know what, Belmo? I might try that. And then he goes and wins $250,000.
It worked. You got to get the money whenever you can get it, right?
Yeah, I told him if I don't get that money, the next time he's on TV, I'm going to trash him. This guy's terrible. He's the worst two-handed bowler in the world.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and talking to us. And again, good luck at the two events coming up this next week. We look forward to having many more conversations, although I'm sure, like you said, you prefer to be out there on the lanes and having us talk about you behind the scenes. But thanks so much for the time here today.
Yeah, mate. No worries at all. Cheers.
Thanks. Well, ladies and gentlemen, again, thank you to Jason Belmonte for joining us. But we've got a ton of coverage coming up for you next week, starting Monday, March 29th. The USBC Masters gets underway from Reno, and we will have 120 hours of coverage over those 2 weeks, the USBC Masters and the US Open. If you don't have a subscription to Bowl TV, I encourage you to get one now. We will be simulcasting the event on both Bowl TV and Flow Bowling, but we're going to be having a ton of huge prize giveaways over on Bowl TV. So you're going to want to get your Bowl TV subscription in order to be eligible for that. And then we also have the PWBA Tour, which I know, Jason, you're a big fan of as well, which gets back underway on April 22nd. So hope you all join us for the coverage. This is Jason Thomas and Jason Belmonte, actually over here, saying goodbye for today, and look forward to seeing you all at the USBC Masters and the US Open.